Hello and welcome back to our Recruiting for Offenses in College Football 26 series. Today we will be going over the becoming more popular around the country power spread. I'm not only going to teach you how to recruit for the power spread of Iowa State, the playbook I'm showing you, but I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to recruit. Penn State, Georgia Tech, there are a lot of schools that are considered power spread, and they run it very differently. Penn State is much more of a passing offense, whereas Georgia Tech obviously is a very heavy, especially quarterback run offense in the power spread. The reason the power spread has become more popularized as of late, especially in the Big 12, is actually because of the defense of the playbook I'm about to show you, and that's Iowa State starting to incorporate more of their three high look, and that's three safeties up top. So when you're looking at it, you're going to have your defensive line here and your three safeties up here covering three high. And again, that's fantastic, not a problem at all. But the problem is that a lot of offenses were running more towards a spread. So instead of running that spread now, what they're doing is they're bringing 1, 2, sometimes 3 tight ends in. They're running out of that 2-3 tight end personnel, but they're able to pass out of it as well. Going more back to a single back or even a gun style out of this. It's causing mismatches for 3 safety looks across the board. But to do that, you got to know where to start. And this is where you start right here. These are the playbooks that are power spread in College Football 26. There are a lot of them, and I've mentioned Georgia Tech being run heavy. Florida tends to be a little bit more of the inverted veer run heavy. Notre Dame, if you remember last year with Riley Leonard, that's why this is a power spread now. South Carolina with Lenoris Sellers, Texas A&M, Tulane had Darian Mensah last year. UTSA is a very unique book. Oregon State is a favorite of online players. A lot of people love the bunch formations in there. Coastal Carolina is an interesting one. Arkansas State's kind of a mix-up. Even the favorites like Kansas State with Avery Johnson and LSU, which tends to be more passing with Garrett Nussmeier. A lot of different idiosyncrasies in these offenses, and I'm going to try to give you as much as I can in this video. So these are the playbooks that are power spread, but the first thing you want to know about what you want out of a power spread quarterback, the way I run it, I want a backfield creator. I have tried running this with a pure runner because of the amount of read option and power option in these playbooks. There's not enough passing from a pure runner in my experience. You can get lucky with a good pure runner and maybe upgrade him into more of a passer, but from what I have found, backfield creator is the best mix of a strong arm, but also some athleticism to be able to run the option stuff. Throw power at about 90 plus. Honestly, if you want to go one more step besides this, speed at about 80. You want 80 or above for speed. Anything below that with a backfield creator, and you're probably not going to be able to run them successfully. Now, don't forget, you can recruit at 75 to 77, especially if you're a smaller school. Please don't take these attributes as life or death. You can recruit and then motivate them up in a couple of years. Redshirt them for a year, let them sit for another year. By the time they're sophomores, they might have the stats you need. For me personally, again, backfield creator, dual threat works a little bit here. What I will say is that if I was going to run Georgia Tech specifically, that's where your pure runner comes in. Georgia Tech is probably the one school on here I would say, okay, pure runner. If you want to talk about maybe going more dual threat instead of backfield creator, you look at Florida. I think Buffalo. I think Stanford throws a little bit more. Texas A&M is another dual threat maybe school that you want to go with. But for me, I think most of these, actually even Notre Dame probably would go here. I think most of the other schools on this list sit somewhere solidly around backfield creator being the best balance of athleticism and throwing that you could possibly get. So, but then you have to hand the ball off. And here is where it gets fun, because Most of what you're going to do, halfback wise, is going to be elusive bruiser or contact seeker. Now, there are some caveats to this as well. Every elusive bruiser and contact seeker you have is going to be able to break tackles and truck up the middle. We know that already. But the one attribute you want to look for that sets the guys that you're looking for apart is change of direction. I've told you guys before, I'm big on change of direction. In this offense, pretty much everybody is change of direction and strength are the two main things I'm looking for across the offense. You're definitely going to see this in the offensive line too. If you want to get a pass catching back, that's also fine because elusive bruiser and contact seeker normally won't work if you get down late in games. So if you wanted to get maybe an east-west playmaker or a north-south playmaker, receiver, those are okay too to bring in as like a third down back or somebody late in games to sub in so you can use them as a receiver as well. But for most of the offense you're going to run, it's going to be elusive bruiser and contact seeker. Now, wide receivers, I've gone back and forth over this a few times. My first initial vibe was I want physical wide receivers, contested specialists, and like physical route runners, things like that. What I found was I wasn't able to get them open against top programs as much. Yeah, you can get them downfield and maybe use aggressive catch a little bit, but a lot of the routes in a lot of these playbooks are complex medium routes or little quick hitters over the middle, because the goal of this offense, we just did the veer and shoot. If you watch that, I told you want to run the ball to kind of open up the passing. Well, when it comes to the power spread, it's actually different. You kind of want to throw the ball to get people out of the box. So your goal is there's going to be people that see this. Let's go to a two tight end look here. There's going to be people that see the two tight end look here, like this wing Y off. They're going to say, oh, we have two tight ends here. Let's bring people down in the box. Well, your goal with these outside guys is if there's that many people in the box, they're going to have one-on-one matchups, and you're not going to have a ton of time to throw that ball. So your goal here is, hey, I want to get these guys as quickly as I can, and I want to get them open. I want to have to not worry about having a bad route runner try to shield with his body. I want guys that are get open and maybe get some yards after the catch. The other thing about this is there are a lot of times in this offense where you're only going to send, maybe you block this tight end, so he's not on a route anymore. So now you're sending three guys down on routes. Maybe you're even max protecting the running back. So now you've got three guys down on routes, and that route running means more. What I found was when I started putting route artists or elusive route runners out on the field, my pass game opened up immensely in this. Again, your mileage may vary, but for me, even though I'm losing a little bit of that outside blocking that I love as a Navy football fan, I felt like the route runners, the higher end route runners, were able to get open more often than not. And again, don't just look for route running and change of direction on this one. The other thing you want to look for here is acceleration. Don't sleep on acceleration. Speed is great. Speed is always the number one killer in EA Sports football games. But acceleration, when you get out of that route, so when you're running this route, right, and you go here to here, this is route running. But the very first few steps, like right here, is acceleration. Remember, acceleration gets you up to your speed. If you've got 99 speed and 75 acceleration, obviously that'll never happen, but the 75 acceleration will not allow you to break away from people. It's going to take you 4, 5, 6 steps to get up to your 99 speed. So your acceleration matters more in short spaces. That's why I really, really like that kind of stuff. So let's get that out of there. So that's the big the secret for me with wide receivers. Now the same thing with tight ends. Now I will say what I'm about to tell you does not adhere to the pass heavy offenses. Okay, I would say Penn State, again Texas A&M, some of those teams that I told you that are more pass heavy earlier in the video. I would say go vertical threat and get some blockers. Secondary vertical threat's much more important. But For the majority of power spread, your goal is you got to have guys that are able to block. But again, I found it that pure blockers really didn't get open. And while I like pure blockers, maybe in the Georgia Tech style, maybe I like having like the pure blockers because Georgia Tech has so much of it. It didn't work when I was running offense. When I was running offense, I felt like I was missing something. So gritty possession and physical route runners are those mesh points between the vertical threats and the pure blockers. Again, they do a little bit of everything, which is what you're going to want to do. What I will say is look for strength on these guys. Run blocking is fine, which you're going to be using a lot, and pass blocking for some of the protection schemes. But strength does both of them. And strength, I have found, tends to be one of those indicator attributes that really show as guys are moving around that use their bodies and really, I've actually seen tight ends with higher end strength deplete defensive backs. And not pure blockers like gritty. I've seen a gritty possession tight end recently absolutely deplete a safety on a block going downfield when he got a little momentum up. So don't sleep on a good blocking tight end that can also catch. Another big thing for gritty possession, you want to look for catch and traffic. Always look for catch and traffic on your tight ends, but catch and traffic is a big one too. Now, when it comes to offensive line, this hurt me to type. Because I'm not a huge just get the big boys out on the field kind of guy. I do like weight at defensive tackle, but when it comes to offensive linemen, I like guys that can get out and make blocks at the second level. I like guys that can pull as guard. And again, you hear power spread, you're like, okay, Mills, a lot of power is gap running where they take that guard and swing them, right? I have found that raw strength offensive linemen just dominate this scheme. And that's because a lot of what you're doing, like I said, the duo runs, a lot of the inverted veers, a lot of the options don't have pull blocks on them. There are some pull blocks in here, don't get me wrong, but a lot of what you're doing is straightforward mauling, and it really tires out the defensive line when you get to a point where you're just wearing them down in the fourth quarter. I said you like to pass to get to the run game. Well, by the time you get to the run game and those raw strength offensive linemen are done, those defensive linemen, especially against the CPU, really don't have a ton left in the tank. So, as I said, strength is always a big thing, but also don't sleep on the big old boys. Don't sleep on weight. You'll notice Iowa State has, I believe, every one of their offensive linemen is 320 pounds plus, and it really shows when you're running this. When you start to get the larger offensive linemen, it really shows long-term in what to do. So that is what I would go for. And then always, I said this at the end of last video, I'll say it a little earlier this video, the one statistic, the one attribute that matters the most on offense, and not so much at quarterback because you're controlling the quarterback most of the time, but even that matters during sims. Never sleep on this. Never sleep on awareness. Awareness is key. You will be amazed at how much better and more efficient your team runs when the awareness is put forward. I've even gone as far as to put offensive linemen who have high awareness but lower blocking in, and I've seen positive results. One of the biggest lies we ever told ourselves is awareness doesn't mean anything. Awareness affects everything. Run block, pass block, awareness is trucking. Awareness is medium accuracy at times. Awareness is juke move. Awareness touches every one of these stats. Every one of these stats. Do not sleep on awareness, please. I promise you, your team will play better with better awareness. Do not be afraid to maybe put a higher awareness player out there and see what they do. The one caveat I will say to that is I feel like when you're controlling the quarterback, awareness doesn't matter as much, but even there, I've noticed less sailed passes at times. And I use revamped passing. I've used placement and accuracy. I've noticed, I don't get so many sailed passes, and a lot of the balls that I throw are in stride, even accurate balls. So All right, let's talk about how to run this offense. Now, again, I want to be very clear that there are different ways to run this offense. Georgia Tech is going to be run heavy to start. Penn State is going to try to spread you out, even in a power spread, and run it more of a spread option, even though they have more power concepts. Stanford, you can see the stamp Andrew Luck already has on that team. So what I will say is this, especially with this Iowa State book, the reason I like this Iowa State book, the reason you didn't hear me mention fullbacks is because I really like running the tight ends at fullback in the Power I and the Maryland I. I'm a big fan of running tight ends down there and using tight ends more as H-backs in these offenses. For those of you who don't know what an H-back is, it's more of a hybrid back that can go between like tight end and fullback. Think of, in the NFL right now, think of Kyle Juszczyk with San Francisco. He runs a lot of that where he'll be at fullback and be pushed up to the line. The Washington Commanders, under their old name, back in like the 80s and 90s, made the H-back really popular in their counter system. They run a lot of counter runs with an H-back. So, again, where we're going to start, though, is I isolate the formations you really like. I love this, like the close two tight end, the close weak two tight end, the bunch strong offset two tight end. A lot of this is Iowa State specific, but I really like to highlight the tight ends on this. You see these dagger plays, these counter extra plays like down here. I'm a big fan of misdirection. But again, when you look at a lot of these runs, right? One of the things you'll notice in a lot of these runs is, let's go into concept real quick. A lot of these runs now trap, but inside zone is 33 plays of your run playbook. Power, even though it says power, I would stick to more of this type of duo run. Duo is essentially a power run without the pulling guard. So you get the same basic type of run in duo. You see the runs look exactly the same, right? But you don't get the pulling guard. So that's why I love duo concept runs. They're normally, again, under power when you're looking at them. Counters, a lot of the counters, even though they have a pulling guard with the raw strength, I love being able to pull a tight end on these. See the counter here. I love these. When you're running counter, be very, very deliberate when you're running counter. One of the reasons I say that is if you take that counter and immediately go horizontal with it, you're going to get tackled for a loss most of the time. Give your two blockers a chance to get out there before you make your first move, and because your first move is normally going to be this way. So again, that's a lot of the counter stuff. Pass wise, I'm going to be real. I sat in medium pass and deep pass for most of the playbook for these. I really don't run, and you'll notice in this Iowa State playbook, there are not a lot of like short plays. The most you get is stick, and that's because stick is such a heavy concept in most playbooks. But look at just the number of plays here. Okay, 32 to 66 to 94. Your goal is probably run as much of the deep stuff to the medium stuff as you possibly can, and then move into your run game. So I really love flood concepts out of this, especially if you have a good tight end. Good tight end, especially in this normal flood concept here, this route right here, with good route running, is normally going to be lined up against a linebacker or a safety, and most of your tight ends should be able to beat them in those type of spots. Run that back here. I absolutely adore the Mills concept. No joke, obviously. I love the Mills concept in these. Mills concepts are anything that has a dig like this and a post over top of it. And one of the reasons is because you're going to be going against a bunch of match coverage. So cover 4 against this Mills concept, what you're doing essentially is you're going to have safety, you're going to have your outside cornerback here, right? And you're going to have your free safety over the top. Well, what's going to end up happening is Once this route gets over 10 yards, it gets handed off to the free safety, and you'll see the free safety dive down. And then this post route, all you have to do is beat the cornerback on it, and you've already got good route running, and that good route running will help you. So if you throw this ball as this free safety crashes, this is an easy touchdown a lot of times. And that is why the Mills concept is so clutch against, if you're seeing a heavy cover 4 team, if you read cover 4 or cover 6 off the rip, look to the Mills concepts, and you can even create Mills concepts in hot routes. I'm a big fan of that. Same thing with double post. Double post routes do the same thing to cover 4, because again, you're getting that safety drug over this way, and then giving this guy a one-on-one matchup against his cornerback. And again, post routes are incredibly hard for cover 4 to cover. So all of those very, very good ways to be able to attack what you're looking for, the cover 4s. 3 high, you want to go back more into like, let's see here, more like the verticals go really well against 3 high, because you can run like the all goes here. The little all go right here, you can run this, and it goes underneath of those 3 safeties. Those 3 safeties are going to be going, they're going to have to go one up here, and one's going to have to choose those 2 routes. That's a little air raid too. You're seeing a little bit of that air raid influence in this with the 4 verts. Definitely has a little Dennis Leach in there, if you know what I mean. The other thing I really like against it is if you go back into the medium passes, I love making these little choice routes, especially something like Y corner over here. Love this against like a 3 high, because again, when you're going against those 3 high safeties, you're attempting to attack underneath and go from there. Hopefully that makes a little sense to you guys. I know that's a little inside baseball. I try on this channel to stay a little layman as I can. But again, so if you're looking at 3 high safeties, you want to go with your medium stuff. Even curls, dude, curl flats are great. Curl flats are great against that kind of stuff. This little curls, gun trips, Y slot, anything that looks like this against 3 high safeties. Remember last video I taught you when to throw curls? Same idea. Really, really good against 3 high. The run game. Okay, so now you've got your pass game going, right? You have your pass game. It's effective. You've got the box now to where they're doing 5-6 in the box. They're back to their normal base coverages, right? Well, now you're going back into your 2 tight end reads. We're even gonna go back into this. So you're gonna go back into your 2 tight end set, which you were already in. Inside zone, any kind of RPOs. RPOs are insanely good, especially when you have this read flat. I want you to remember RPO read flat. Now, I know you've probably heard this before as being a very, very good play. Remember, it can be run one of 2 ways. You can run RPO read flat one of 2 ways, and let me show you. See if I can actually show it in game here. Option RPO read. Let's call this read you slide right here, okay? We're gonna call read you slide because this is a version of read flat. This is read flat wheel as well. So I want you to remember that read is part of this RPO. Anything that says read, you can do this on, okay? This is a big, big part of this, because you're not always going to have time to throw that guy first. So we're going to do RPO read slide, and we're just going to do random 4-2-5, okay? So Y is the intended target. What you're looking for is these guys, if these guys filter down here, or if this guy filters off, then you're going to run the ball, okay? But if they don't, you're going to throw it. But see how much time you have to go to lob that? Don't forget, you're still reading this defender. This defender is still unblocked. That defender, look, see how he's the read key? Just like any other option play, you're going to read him and then read like this. Now, obviously don't read into the play, but you're going to read that and then you can still throw it after you read. This is huge because not only can you throw it after you read, Look at how much more room that gives you to be able to throw out wider. I really love that about RPO read flats. But the other thing is too, and I'm going to get tackled here, but you don't have to throw this ball. Look at him chase. You can run up the field. If you have a more athletic quarterback and you really want to use their legs here, the cool thing about this is, again, don't hold it when the defender stops. But the really cool thing about this is you can throw this, or if you have an athletic quarterback, you can use this as almost a triple option. This is very much like a triple option. So Rocco Beck says, okay, I don't want to go. I have all this room up here. I'm going to go with it. See what I mean? There's so many different ways you can run these type of plays. Wide open, I'm going to go out there. He's going to get 10, 15 yards. This is really good on the goal line as well. It's better in the open field, but it can be a goal line play. You can throw it if you want right there. I do find that if you don't hold it on the read, you tend to have to like lob it like that a little bit to get that out there. So anything that is RPO read flat, that's a great way to handle that. As for the rest of your run games, I really, dude, when I say this, I mean it. I really, really love inverted veer. I know there's only one play in here, but where's the read options are very good here. The lead read options where you get the tight end. Again, this is why you don't want to go pure blocker, because you want your tight ends to be athletic enough to get around the backside here. So really love that. RPO, I've talked about RPO reads and just how powerful they can be in this game, especially with the wheel, glance, slant. Let's go with the glance. I'll show you the glance real quick too, because the glance can be very weird too. So what you're looking at is this read key up here for the glance. You're looking at this read key and you're looking at this guy. If these guys crash, you're throwing it. If they don't, you're running it. The reason I show you is because I think RPO glance is one of the most overlooked plays as a child of the Wake Forest offense. See that? See that? It's not, you're not even reading the outside. Again, you're reading this, wherever that orange R is, that's your read. That's your read, okay? On these glances. He's back, you're running. Easy as that. Same thing. He's up at the safety. You'll see if he gets in the path, he's back. Throw that. Same thing. He crashes. Now that be careful that what he did there. A lot of times you'll see that read key crash and back out. Please be very careful of that. I've fallen, especially when the read key is like inside here. There are a lot of times they will crash here, stop, and back out. Make sure they crash before you throw it. But that is the power spread. As crazy as it sounds, it is a lot of throw first, run after, and it's a lot of power concept. And I think if you get your awareness up on, especially on your offensive line, if you get awareness high, raw strength offensive linemen, I think you can be really effective. And again, this is to counteract a lot of, if your Dynasty or your conference in Dynasty runs a lot of 4-2-5 or 3 safety especially, this is where you go. You go into your 2 tight end personnel and you really start to show them what for with a little bit of heavier looks. Stay tuned. We'll have another video out hopefully this week, maybe next week. The next one should be the air raid. Yeah, we're going to get into the air raid. I know a lot of you have been asking for that. Should be a fun one. It's about 60% all verts. 60% of the times you're going to throw 4 verts, and 50% of that time you're going to throw to the running back. So welcome to the air raid. Remember, look good, be good, do good things, and I will see all of you glorious creatures in the next video.